Welcome everyone to a quick tech tips video here. This failing hard drive, specifically those 2.5 drives, I think I transitioned my company away from 2.5 drives. Each fails after warranty. I'm sick and tired of those. And at this point I wanted to note that S.M.A.R.T, the self-monitoring analysis and reporting technology that we have in hard drives for probably about 20 years. Before that, good old-fashioned IDE stuff, we had stickers, so those good old-fashioned 20 megabyte, not gigabyte, not terabyte, 20 megabyte drives usually came with stickers listing bad blocks, and you had to even manually type it into your software at times for low-level formatting. So the irony is, this S.M.A.R.T reporting, not once in my life, and I had hundreds of failing drives, not once had this S.M.A.R.T overall health self-assessment test result not passed, right? So this drive is dead, S.M.A.R.T passed. The sister drive of this fails now too, so that is basically another, like we had a couple of those, I will not buy them again. I now transitioned to 3.5-inch drives for hopefully better reliability. Let's take a closer look. So how to even, because most people struggle to interpret this, and by the way, I would recommend what we actually have done, as you see here. I will probably, for the future, as this is infrastructure renewal year, in the future I will probably more systematically run the self-test. Few people do that. I recently sourced a handful of nearly new SAS drives, like old Sunstock and stuff, for our professional data center needs. And while they were a little bit used, none of those drives, or other, actually I have a couple of other like more used drives like Fiber Channel, which I'm not going to buy new and stuff for our vintage and retro testing. Not a single drive I ever purchased used had S.M.A.R.T self-test logs saved and run and saved. So so far I've manually run them at times. I will probably in the future automate that so that once a month, maybe the first Sunday or so, at least, like maybe even theoretically you probably could run this every week, like let's say every Sunday a short test and the first Sunday of a month extended offline test. And you see I've even run that at times, one even relatively recently, and it completed without error, right? So what this extended self-tests do is they actively run, instead of just monitoring, the firmware on the drive then actively scans, seeks and reads and determines how healthy it is. And at times this fail is only because I rebooted and stuff. This extended usually runs 2 or 3 hours, and so some of this interrupted is like due I rebooted or stuff. Anyway, so case in point, so this drive is on its last leg. What happened there is I noticed that storage became slower and slower, and now this bloody drive, which S.M.A.R.T drive data you see here, Seagate Barracuda 2.5-inch, 5404 freaking terabyte, it reads like shit, and it writes less than 1 megabyte. Yes, megabyte, not gigabyte, less than 1 megabyte a second it writes. And you see that here. So how to interpret this stuff, right? And so despite this drive is unusably hours or weeks before total failing, S.M.A.R.T data, it's fine, it's probably good, it's like that. Anyway, so how to interpret the stuff beside here all the general information, the drive specifics and stuff. So these are the attributes, and most people struggle a little bit, maybe a little bit the fault of maybe readability of this open source tools, but also Windows people with their UI tools ask. Maybe a little bit, of course, the manufacturers to blame, well, certainly for passing, like dead drives passing S.M.A.R.T test, S.M.A.R.T. So the main thing is this value, and this is usually, and there it starts, right, usually, except when vendors disagree. But so this is normalized, meaning this is the raw value here, and you also don't see that in full. So that's the raw value here, right? And because the raw value is different, like if the drive is 4 times as large, 4 times the capacity and stuff, it of course has to be interpreted differently. Plus, all the vendors between Seagate, Western Digital, and who else might still be in the market, previously IBM and such, Toshiba and so on, they might all determine these values differently, right? So this is why the SMART standard committee people 20 years or so ago decided to normalize it. So that is what the main value here is. The main value is normalized usually to 100, basically 100%, right? And except when they differ, sometimes they use 250, 255 or stuff, but the concept is the same. So that means more, like usually 100%, is usually better. And so here, for example, raw read error rate is 82. So basically this dead drive is like raw read error rate of like this millions here of raw read errors translate to Seagate's normalized. That's probably still fine, 82. It's 82% probably still fine. And the worst was, okay, we should first talk about thresholds. So how to interpret this is that the vendor, Seagate in this case, determined the threshold for probably a pretty dead drive is 6%. Like, I don't want to know how dead a drive should be to, like, if this drive is a piece of shit, with 82%, it's like 6%, like, yeah, then it's for sure dead. Anyway, the worst value also indicates how bad it once was. So I have no idea how this can recover. Maybe, like for example, for more modern Intel Optane SSD storage, of course, that would be reallocated sectors. The SSDs have spare sectors, and of course the spare sectors should not recover, right? Spare flash cell that's dead is dead. I'm not really sure how this can recover on hard drives. Maybe if the data is rewritten. So for example, it reads like shit, it reads again, it tries again 5 times, it somehow error decodes that, error corrects it out of there, and it is rewritten. So maybe that is how it can recover. So apparently this firmware thinks, hey, once upon a time in the past, a year ago, it was already worse. Nothing to worry, it got better, probably. So that is here, for example, spin up time, whatever, that's 0. Other stuff, for example, these are common attributes, right? There are standards, the vendors like Seagate, Samsung and so on, they once agreed about this data center stuff. So all those drives differ by vendor and model. So all drives report different sets. For example, by price point, right? Enterprise drives might report more, cheaper entry level, low-end drives might report less, and so on. So common stuff is here, for example, as we discussed, raw read error rate. That is when it reads with the heads, the magnetic data, how many errors are there? If you wonder how can it still read it, of course, there always has been initially parity bits, now more fancy, easy error correction. The firmware reads it, it error corrected, and so the firmware already knows, hey, I corrected 2-bit errors, so yeah, there's some error rate, right? Spin up time, start stop count, that's basically how often it was stopped, for example, at night or weekend, suspending to memory. Reallocated sector count. This is apparently not reallocated, so although the drive is near dead and writes with only, like, yeah, shingled magnetic recording, right, S.M.A.R., it writes with 1 megabyte per second. It has somehow apparently raw value 0, 100%, threshold 10%. Apparently not yet, like why did it not remap some dead sectors? I don't know. But that is how it usually should work. I have seen this, so on other drives, on other vendors, I have seen reallocated sector count to decrease, right? Seek error rate, so it's like, yeah, it seek errored a couple of million times. So that is 232,705,024 times. It tried to seek somewhere, didn't find it, like, yeah, didn't find it, still didn't find it, yeah. Probably eventually, probably a little bit there, it's still a little bit off. It's like, yeah, seek error rate. Power on hours, Again, they have not been run 24/7, right? They might be 4 or 5 years old, but limited office use here with suspending to memory, only 5,430 hours. On hours rated by Seagate, 94%, right? So that's what it means. So for example, this, obviously time does not go backward, right? So this worst value here probably should not recover, probably should, except firmware bugs. Spin retry count, so that would be click, click. Didn't do that yet, 100%, raw value 0, and so on. This is power cycle count, right? So power cycle is the difference between, you see there, this machine apparently suspended to memory probably 300 times, I would think. Then I tell you this because, as I said, this S.M.A.R.T self-test still passes, right? Although this is as dead as a paper, right? One thing on this drive, so again, unfortunately, this will vary by vendor, but one thing here is this has over 1 billion times also, maybe 17 billion, 180,196,869 command timeouts. And that is probably, so which commands are this? You see this here probably in the commands leading to the command, so that is error 1 occurred, power on, this is, whatever. Flushing, writing, like write stuff, journal file system, operating system Linux in this case, kindly ask the drive, hey, I wrote some journal data, can you please flush your caches? It's like, yeah, command timeout or so. And this, for this drive, probably an indication that, like, yeah, it tried, I've seen this, right? Like, why do we have less than 1 megabyte write speeds on this nearly dead drive? Yeah, it tried to write data, right? And it tried hard, and it tried it again. Why it didn't reallocate sectors, firmware bugs, marginalities, no testing, algorithm bugs whatsoever. Other things, so airflow temperature, value, not really sure what those values are. So these are the 29. So this drive didn't even become particularly hot, maybe min-max 23, 20, before you tell me, yeah, got too hot. Yeah. If that is true, I don't. So in this case, I have no idea what, so this is percent, right? So 71%, like probably still okayish warm, I don't know. So normalized values, however they translate them, probably somehow. Anyway, this is of course 29 degree. Right now I'm running it with an open case, right? For RAID hot Linux LVM2 RAID 5 hot drive swapping. Gsense error rate is of course if you drop it like a laptop drive powered on. Of course it only works when it's powered on. Due. Load cycle count, I made the previous video, right? Some of those drives, load cycle count, so that is loading off the heads, they are parking them. I disabled that for many of the drives because some of those drives load like laptop form factor in data center RAID. Some of them load off the heads every 2 minutes or so, leading to, I made a previous video 5 years ago. So usually I disable that with low-level commands. That is, otherwise, if I wouldn't have disabled that, probably it would have a load cycle count of 1 million by now, probably. There's more temperature, airflow, and temperature. Who knows where they have sensors. Hardware ECC recovered, right? So there's also some millions of 147 millions, 702,000 times. So yeah, how dead is it? Maybe I speculate that we had some flood in Thailand, right? Where is it made? Was it made in Thailand? But once upon a time, there was some flood and hardware manufacturing was affected. So maybe all of those drives are so bad because it was after the flood. New production line, still a little bit humid. I'm speculating, right? Because like this is dead, that is dead. I'm not buying them again. The irony is there are no other high capacity 4 terabyte. I mean, they even have 5 terabyte, right? But I'm not trusting these drives anymore. There's no nice paperweight. Probably shall accept subscribe, probably disassemble it in a future video. So there was this flood. Thailand, Seagate. I'm pretty sure they were hitting PC drive market 2011 already. Although this was, maybe there was a flood 2 times because this drive is not that old. 4 terabyte, 2.5-inch drives did not exist then. Pretty sure there was another flood in 2018 or so. I believe, might be off, but I mean, obviously quality and stuff, right? All the quality. Leave in the comments below. I never had a hard drive series as bad as that. In the meantime, all the nearly dozen drives, this is soon the last one, and I'm not buying them. So that means I cannot source, like, leave in the comments below. I mean, I'm not overpaying for 800 bucks a drive. SARS, other enterprise drive, right? That also means I'm transitioning fully now to 3.5-inch drives for bigger drives, hopefully less fragile, less miniaturized, hopefully, obviously highest densely packed shingled magnetic recording. Leave in the comments below how many of those fail for you. I am done with them, and that is a brief summary how to interpret those data, right? Last but not least, it's a little bit funny, it has here G sensor, right? I don't know why they have that twice. Leave me, maybe that is, no, this is a little bit funny. So that is, maybe I should research that and write my own software. No idea why they have this twice. Other statistics, this is how many logical blocks were read and written. Just for you, general statistics, how long you use these drives, how long and how much. And so last but not least, which attributes are important to diagnose how failing your drive is. And I really wonder, I mean, the thing is, so S.M.A.R.T, in my opinion, is a huge fail, right? Each of our failed drives always passed S.M.A.R.T except when they were electrically already dead for other interface reasons, which also happened sometimes, of burned fuses or burned ICs, burned power stages, who knows what. So given that the S.M.A.R.T overall health self-assessment test is a joke, never worked, basically, like if this failed, then it's dead already. It's like, it's not helpful, right? So how to interpret it? Anyway, so as much fail as it is, it's still helpful, right? Obviously having some statistics is better than having a good old-fashioned sticker on your drive for statistics. So of course it's still helpful, right, to get an overall picture. So what to look for is stuff like raw error rate here, like obviously due if your error rate, your reallocated sectors, your seek error rate, like obviously all the error rates, like if they are huge, like in the millions, it's like, hey, here for example, seek error rate, we are close to this, we once upon a time were relatively close to the threshold, right, of 45%. Not good. I mean, I don't know if S.M.A.R.T would fail if that is eventually, maybe just for the science as this drive still reads, maybe I should just hammer it, right? Test software, get some more experience, like hammering it until it is dead and then comparing the last recorded S.M.A.R.T values. And then for this drive, for sure, command timeout, right? This is reading stuff and the firmware never came back. Writing stuff and the firmware needed some, still there, still something going on. Hey, Linux OS there, I had some data for you. Are you finished writing? No, still not, hello. Still with my command to complete, right? Anyway, this is how this is still useful. Unfortunately, given the vendors have no incentive, right? That's a bit of a problem. A shame. These values would be helpful if they would be interpreted more useful. Here for, surely it passed. it passed with closed eyes. There is nothing to see. It's like there's nothing to see. S.M.A.R.T is fine. You need to apply some common sense. If you wanted to, if you run a big data center, probably you have your own reporting already. Leave in the comments below if you work in data center, big storage, cloud and stuff, like the cloud, in the cloud. Leave in the comments below, what are you watching out for? Do you have custom reporting of collecting your raw error rates and so on? And this is how you can, with some common sense and scripting, still get useful data. And we had some reporting, it was not yet good enough. We will 2023 infrastructure apocalypse further improve that, log this even more, log this even better. Do weekly Sunday. Why Sunday? Because Sunday is nobody in the office, right? So not to, if you do this on Monday or if you do this during regular 9 to 5 office hours, then you of course have reduced bandwidth for read and writes. So this is why I suggest doing that at night or weekends. Then people are not slowed down accessing their precious office files. And monthly extend offline tests. The only problem is we are auto-suspending all our servers for environmental reasons. So that is a bit of a thing. This is also why some of the stuff, like I left it running, went home, and in the night, the server is not needed anymore, suspended to memory. It's like due here. That happens. So you need to obviously also take this into account in your fancy reporting, scripting of not suspending your servers if they're still running extended offline tests. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this, learned something. And before you tell me why do you still run rotational hard drives, I mean, obviously they're cheaper than SSDs, and SSDs can fail too, right? Not only do you pay a premium for SSDs, still 4, 5, 6 times the money, and then they can also fail, right? So you still need obviously backups and also monitor SSDs for their reallocated sector count, where leveling, and they will obviously, I mean, theoretically I have many drives. I mean, I have a box. Like, why do I have a box? Because testing, right? I have a box full of totally read erroring, totally write erroring, nearly dead and stuff for our software development. Like, you want to test some error recovery and stuff, take it out of your archive. You have plenty of failing drives. And to be fair, many of them still work, right? So that's so much to even 20-year-old drives. You don't have this with SSDs, right? If you use SSDs excessively, they will, after some 1,000 write cycles, be dead. On hard drives, at least you can be lucky if you don't buy Seagate Barracuda 4 terabyte compute drives. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this, learned something. And people say their S.M.A.R.T claims their SSD is at minus 37 degrees Celsius. Is that Linux or Windows? Is it open source? Maybe. There's also always a reason. I mean, maybe they encoded this wrong, right? Maybe the software is decoding it wrong. It might be some Fahrenheit versus Celsius conversion thing, or other vendor extensions. But I also, the sad thing, I would hope the vendors would help more. Recently, I even in T2 packaged some Seagate, whatever the name was, it was some stupid name, maybe we can find it. I even packaged some vendor-specific formatting software because I wanted to quick 4K format those fancy SAS drives. Seagate, where is it? Let's see something. Yeah, whatever the name was. It is, you name your stuff strange and you don't find it anymore. Anyway, we have some kind of, it was open. Yeah, open source it is. Utilities versus operations, was it this one? Ah yeah, it was that one. OpenC chest. 2023, I even packaged that. I wish the vendors would work better together and with open source people, so that like utilities for operations on SATA, SAS, NVMe, USB storage devices would be in other SD parms, smart utils and stuff, and we wouldn't have vendor specific open Seagate jest utilities for custom quick format, 4K and native and stuff. And similar to this, right, like vendors encode temperatures in a way that, like 2023, according to the comments, some vendors still cannot encode their temperature, or at least make sure that it reads correctly with popular tools. But it's like, yeah, smart past, that's probably too much to ask.